Sexual and Domestic Violence. Adjourned debate. Honourable Mr. Billis.
Any honourable members wishing to speak to Bill 2? I will recognize Calgary McKay-Nosehill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Soon after I was elected, in May of 2015, someone quite wise asked me what was important to me as an MLA. After thinking about it, I came up with 3 things that are important to me as an MLA and as a human being. I think Alberta should lead the world in energy innovation. I think that high-speed internet connectivity should reach all people in Alberta with a focus on rural and Indigenous Albertans. And I think that women and girls should be able to walk alone without fear. Fear of harassment and fear of assault are real for many, many women and girls. And I wonder how much of the energy that we put into keeping ourselves safe could go into more productive pursuits, like creating a more equitable society and collaborating to solve the big problems our world is facing. This is particularly important to me because I am a survivor of repeated sexual assaults as a child. Before I share my story, I want to caution anyone who may be sensitive that what I am sharing might trigger a reaction for them. When I was 5, I went to spend a week with some family friends out of town. I was so excited to have so many sleepovers in a row with their daughter who was around my age, and to explore a new town. I loved my life as a little kid. I was outgoing and bold and confident. I loved who I was and was probably annoying in my sheer joy about life. On the 2nd or 3rd night at my friend's house, something woke me up in the dark. I remember feeling so afraid while my friend's older brother assaulted me. I didn't understand what was happening, and he told me he would kill me if I said anything, and I believed him. He was a lot older and bigger than me. There was nothing I could do to save myself from what was happening. Overnight, my confidence evaporated. A few months later, my family ended up moving to the same town as my abuser, and I continued to be abused at every opportunity he could find to assault me. I was an only child, and I found it very hard to make friends in my new town. I became the target of bullies in town, a group of older boys who would tease me mercilessly. I was terrified of them. I would have done anything so that they wouldn't touch me. I never spoke up. I never talked back. I never defended myself to them because I knew the danger in provoking older boys. The assaults continued off and on until I was about 12, and I fought back. Like many small-town Alberta kids, I spent a lot of time at the rink. I was a figure skater, and my dad coached a hockey team. My abuser ended up playing hockey for my dad, and I saw him far more than I wanted to. He cornered me at the rink one day when he thought he could get away with assaulting me again, and I used my knee to forcefully stop what he was doing. He never touched me again. The experience changed me. Like many survivors, I've sought help for PTSD, depression, and anxiety. The easy confidence of my childhood disappeared and was replaced with distrust and isolation. Other survivors can face challenges with substance abuse and suicide attempts, and I commend everyone who has ever sought to heal from sexual assault and those who keep on keeping on every day who haven't sought out support yet to help them overcome what happened to them. I never shared what happened to me until after I had my own children. It wasn't until about 10 years ago that I even knew I could still report what happened to me, and I figured it was my responsibility to report the assaults so that his name would be on record in case anyone else ever came forward. The process of reporting was difficult. After giving my statement at home, I had to go to police headquarters and relate what happened to me to a man I didn't know in a small room with a closed door. I was very grateful when that was over. The case got transferred to the RCMP because the events took place in their jurisdiction. Again, I had to sit in a small room with a closed door and tell a man I didn't know what happened to me when I was a child. The case was investigated. There were never any charges laid. I was reminded of the experience recently when I read the Globe and Mail article by Robin Doolittle. It's called Unfounded, if you want to read it. It's very good, and I'll table some copies tomorrow. 1 in 5 sexual assault claims are dismissed as baseless. Many others never result in charges. The experience left me feeling empty and alone. It felt like the police didn't believe me, and I need to tell everyone here that the most important thing that you can say to a survivor is, "I believe you." We have trouble believing what happened to us ourselves. It's traumatizing, it's shocking, and it's so hard to process it. I want to share some statistics on sexual assaults and abuse that I researched in preparing for speaking to this bill today. There are varying numbers depending on where you look, but overall the story is that the number of assaults reported is very low in comparison to the number of assaults that occur. And of those reported, survivors are unlikely to see the perpetrator convicted or jailed. The percentage of sexual assaults reported to the police is 6%. The percentage of date rape sexual assaults reported is 1 to 2%. The percentage of sexual assaults reports that are false is 2 to 4%. It doesn't happen very often. The percentage of all sexual abuse, sexual assault victims that are under the age of 17, like I was, is 60%. The percentage of sex crimes victims that are women is 80%. The percentage of disabled women that will be sexually assaulted during their lifetimes is 83%. The percentage of sexual assault victims that are boys under 16 is 15%. The percentage of assailants that are friends or family of the victim is 80%. It's someone that you know, very likely. I thought pretty hard about sharing my experience today, and I thank you for being so kind to me. I am grateful to people like Sheldon Kennedy, who transformed his experience into an oasis of support for kids like me in Calgary, the Sheldon Kennedy Child Advocacy Centre. Sean McCann, a Canadian musician you probably know from Great Big Sea, he's recently shared his story of abuse and his struggle with alcoholism in order to give other people hope. Scottish MP Michelle Thompson, who heroically told her story as a survivor of sexual violence as a young woman in the UK House of Commons. And Elizabeth Halpin, who is the young woman who spoke at the announcement for Bill 2 and talked to the impact that this bill will have for victims if it passes. Right now, as the law stands, a survivor has to bring a civil case to court within 2 years. That's a very short time if you're in the process of putting your life back together, and it passes by very quickly. Healing takes time. It takes place over a lifetime, and the more time we can give survivors to take care of their immediate needs and grow stronger before considering a civil case, the better. With this legislation, the time limit will be lifted for civil cases of either sexual or domestic violence. I'm confident that everyone here wants to eradicate sexual assault and to hold perpetrators to account so that no one has to feel the fear and shame that go along with being a survivor ever again. We aren't there yet. The criminal justice system can't meet all of the needs for being heard that survivors have. A time limit is the worst reason to not hold perpetrators accountable. This bill is an important step along the way, giving survivors the opportunity to have their voices heard in court and to clear the path to further healing. Secrets grow in the dark. Let's shed light on this destructive problem. I urge everyone to vote in favor of Bill 2. Thank you.
Standing Order 29-2A, any questions or comments? The Honourable Member for Calgary North? South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to commend the Honourable Member for your courageousness and your courage, and yeah, that was just amazing, and again, commend you again.
Rockview under 29-2A.
I would also, I'm beyond words, and thank you so much for the courage, and I echo the words of my colleagues over here for sharing your story and shedding some very much needed light. You're an inspiration to many, many young women who will be looking to this house to find out how to move forward, and because you're in such a public position, this must have been very difficult for you, and we certainly commend you for coming forward. So thank you so much.
So a few minutes under 29-2A. Did you wish to comment? Red to yourself?
Thank you.
North?
Thank you. I don't have a question, I just have a comment. And I just want to thank you on behalf of all Albertans for having the courage to tell your story today. I know it was a hard story to tell, but thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Any other questions or comments under 29-2A? The Honourable Member for Edmonton Castle Downs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd also like to say thank you for sharing. I know the powerful words that you shared today is going to be so impactful to so many people that are struggling with this very issue. It's going to give them the strength to come forward. Thank you so much.
Strathcona Sherwood Park.
Madam Speaker, through you, I would like to not only commend the member for these comments, but for her continual advocacy on this issue. She has been throughout what I've known her, an endless advocate for women and for women's rights and to end sexual violence, and that passion comes from a very insightful place and a personal experience is something that I know many women share with her. And because of the statistics that she shares, we know that that this is not only for you, but it does take bravery to share a personal story. But it allows to have that lens of personal experience, that diversity in having a caucus from different parts of life brings forward, and how that translates into legislation is even bigger. So for all of your contributions, not just your personal share, thank you so much.
I'll recognize Calgary Lougheed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know how you could do what you just did. And like others, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. It is going to have a huge impact, I trust, on people not just in Alberta, but far beyond. And I wonder if the honourable member would like to make a comment. What specific advice would you have for someone who has been assaulted, male or female, any age? And what advice would you have for someone out there who might be thinking that they might want to assault someone, male or female? Because those people need to hear very strong messages too, and having been through it yourself, perhaps they will take it from you as to what to do and what not to do. Thank you.
Calgary McKay-Nose Hill, did you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the question. My advice to anyone who hasn't reported is to seek help, seek support for yourself. That's the most important thing, to be able to get through any difficult situation in life. We all deserve support, and there's no shame to be had. It's not because of what you wore or what you did or what you said. It was the choice of someone else. And to anyone who has assaulted someone else or who feels that urge to assault someone else, I would say something similar. Seek support. There is help. You know what you want to do is wrong, and the impact on other people's lives is devastating. It takes so much for survivors to get through what they experience, and it's a waste of time and energy that could be spent on much more productive, beautiful things.